Hello to all the viewers tuning into the Mr. Twilight channel. Welcome to the latest episode of the series, Nighttime Horror Stories. Today, I'll be sharing some chilling experiences that took place in schools across the United States. I want to emphasize that all of these stories come from first-hand accounts, people who have truly felt the depths of terror. They are either international students or local residents, but all of them carry an unforgettable sense of fear. Make sure you're in a safe space, because if you're watching this alone late at night, you just might hear strange whispers coming from the dark corners. Now, let's begin with the first story. Story 1. The Night Guard. Flickering flashlight beams, heavy breathing, and the sound of shoes echoing on old tile floors filled the dark silence. Jason, drenched in sweat, crept through the hallway of an old high school. By day, the place buzzed with students, but now it was eerily quiet. Suddenly, a cold draft brushed the back of his neck. Jason froze, adjusting his flashlight, when the dim light swept across a dark corner. Near a heavy metal door, he saw a figure standing there. It was a tall man wearing a hat, his shadow stretched long across the peeling walls. His face was hidden, but his thin shoulders and unnaturally long arms were visible. He looked up, his eyes seemed to flash. Before Jason could react, the man moved. In a split second, he stood right in front of him. Jason stumbled backward, slamming into a wooden crate that teetered and fell. The man grabbed Jason's shoulder tightly. Jason stared into hollow eyes and pale, corpse-like skin. The figure smiled, a wide grin with yellowed teeth. Jason screamed, threw his flashlight at the man, and ran. Behind him, in the darkness, he heard a high-pitched cackle and the sound of dragging footsteps closing in. Jason had come to the U.S. through a student exchange program. He was attending a historic high school with a classic exterior. He'd heard rumors about Old Bill, the night guard. Supposedly, Bill lived in a makeshift dorm in the basement and was responsible for nighttime security. Bill was an odd man, reclusive, sleepless, looking eyes sunken deep in his face. Strange stories about him circulated among the bolder students, including Jason. One day, curious and skeptical about the supernatural, Jason invited some new friends to sneak into the basement with him at night. But everyone else was busy. Undeterred, Jason decided to go alone. He snuck into the school after hours, hid in a bathroom until the night guard locked up, and at 11 p.m., when everything was silent, he turned on his flashlight and began his exploration. What he encountered in the basement may or may not have been Bill, but it terrified him. He bolted back the way he came and scrambled out through a window. Scratches from the creature's fingernails were still fresh on his wrist as he ran home, haunted by the eerie laughter echoing behind him. Jason couldn't sleep for days. At school, he combed through the library and uncovered something chilling. There had been a guard named Bill who died in a fire. All that was found afterward was a charred uniform. People believed his spirit never left the school. At night, he wandered the halls, his mind lost. No one knew for sure if the story was real, but many students had seen strange things. Jason and some classmates were in after-school tutoring when they saw a chair at the end of the hall move on its own and crash to the floor. No one was near, and all nearby doors were locked. A classmate shared that when she returned to school to retrieve something, the hallway lights turned on one by one as she walked, like someone was watching and controlling them. Despite the fear, Jason wanted answers. This time, he brought along two close friends, Ron and Sarah. Around 10 p.m., they snuck into the school and headed to the basement. Just as they reached the door, the same raspy laughter returned. Sarah trembled. Ron grabbed Jason's arm, urging him to leave, but Jason was determined. If we run now, we'll never know the truth. I need to find out what this is. They pushed the door open. Inside, the room smelled damp, the walls covered in green mold. Suddenly, The tall figure with the long arms appeared in the corner again. All three looked up and saw two dark, hollow eyes before it lunged at them with terrifying speed. They screamed and scattered. Ron and Sarah flung open the door and fled. Jason lagged behind and felt a cold hand grab his wrist. He pulled back, shouting, "Let me go, Bill. I'm a student here. Please let me go." With his eyes shut tight, the cold grip faded. When he opened them, the figure backed into the shadows and disappeared, leaving only a low growl. The three managed to escape. Jason, deeply shaken, confided in a trusted history teacher who revealed a dark secret. The original guard, Bill Hastings, had lost his mind and performed a bizarre ritual involving black magic in the school basement. He hoped to communicate with the spirits of his lost family. Soon after, the basement was sealed off. The school didn't disclose the reason, only calling it a hazardous area and warning students and staff to stay away. I stumbled across this story on a school forum. Jason left it as a warning for others who might consider exploring. Surely, some daring souls will still be tempted to enter that forbidden space. Would you dare to try? Story 2. The Night Class and the Eyeless Teacher. Let's not keep you waiting. Our second story takes us to a quiet suburb in New England. It was midnight. Click, click. The sound echoed like someone tapping a ruler against a chalkboard. Casey moved carefully through the school hallway, her heart pounding. Faint light glowed beneath the door of a classroom at the end of the hall. She crept closer and gently pushed the door open. Inside, a woman in a formal dress, her hair neatly tied up, stood at the teacher's podium with her back turned. Her posture was rigid, and she tapped a ruler rhythmically on the board as if giving a lesson. Casey swallowed hard and whispered. The woman turned around, and what Casey saw horrified her. Her eyes were wide open, but there was no mouth, just a smooth, waxy patch of pale skin where her lips should be. Yet, the woman made a choking, garbled sound. Casey screamed and turned to run, but the door slammed shut behind her. The woman stepped forward slowly. Casey didn't dare look back, but in her mind, she heard a ghostly whisper, "You must obey Mayor." The high school Casey attended had two buildings. Most activities took place in the main one, while the back building, old and rarely used, was home to a few science labs and advanced classes. Casey's honors literature class was held there. Recently, rumors had spread. At night, students claimed to see a strange teacher in the old classrooms. Some even swore they heard the scratch of chalk and the sharp rap of a ruler, even when no one was inside. The name surfaced quickly. Matilda Willis, a once renowned literature teacher who taught at the school 2 decades ago. Although she won many awards, students largely disliked her, obsessed with performance. Ms. Willis often stayed at school late, sometimes even overnight, grading papers and preparing lessons. Her harsh scolding drove some students to drop out in fear. Over time, her mind unraveled. Then one night, she vanished. Students quietly rejoiced at the end of her classroom of terror, but a new legend was born. They said she still lingered, lecturing to empty chairs, her spirit bound by rage and loneliness. The worst part, she had no voice left. Those who encountered her saw that she no longer had a mouth. Casey's terrifying encounter that night was her first. She struggled with the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. The eyeless woman drew closer, her wide eyes filled with fury. Sweat poured from Casey's skin. She squeezed her eyes shut and trembled, whispering, "What do you want from me?" Only a raspy groan answered. Just as the ghost's hand reached for her shoulder, the lights suddenly went out, plunging the room into darkness. Casey's heart nearly stopped. When the lights flickered back on, the woman had vanished. The door stood open. Casey bolted from the room and collapsed in the hallway, gasping for air. Soon after, students began sharing a photo, said to be a page from Miss Willis's diary. The scrawled writing revealed her fragile state of mind. "They laugh behind my back. They're disrespectful. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I hear their mocking giggles. I hate that laughter. One day, I'll silence them. Just like me after reading it. Casey was haunted by nightmares. She dreamed she was trapped in class, surrounded by doll-like, expressionless faces. On the podium stood Ms. Willis, writing on the chalkboard, "The greatest taboo, never disrupt me while I teach." One night, Casey woke up at exactly 11:45 p.m. Determined to end the nightmare, she returned to the old classroom with a flashlight. As expected, Miss Willis was there. She turned her head, fury blazing in her eyeless stare. Casey bravely called out, "Ms. Willis, stop! Those students, they're no longer here. Please, let us go in peace." The woman raised her ruler and slammed it onto a desk. A deafening crack echoed, and the ceiling lights flickered wildly. A strange energy rattled the windows and doors. Casey trembled but realized the visions were illusions, creations of Ms. Willis's tormented spirit. She climbed onto the podium and shouted, "We're sorry. Please free yourself." That moment, the spirit froze. Ms. Willis lifted her head, her eyes filled with confusion. Then she took a step back. The lights flickered out again. When they returned, the room was empty, desks in disarray, and a broken wooden ruler lay on the floor. Since that night, the ghostly sightings have stopped. Students no longer hear Ms. Willis's eerie lessons echoing in the dark. Casey believes that Miss Willis finally found peace, realizing those who disrespected her had long gone. Yet even now, sometimes at midnight, Casey jolts awake, hearing a faint, choking sob in the distance. Story 3. The Demonic Child. In a dark corner of the dormitory hallway, Patrick, a teaching intern from Germany, trembled against the wall. Across from him stood a young boy in a primary school uniform, a wool hat pulled low over half his face, giggling softly. Under the flickering hallway light, the boy's face became clear pitch, black pupils, deathly pale skin, and a blank, emotionless smile. In a high-pitched voice, the boy asked, "Teacher, will you play hide and seek with me?" Patrick tried to step back, but the boy vanished into the shadows. Just as Patrick exhaled in relief, the child reappeared behind him, whispering in his ear, "Don't run, you'll never escape." Patrick screamed and fainted from terror. Patrick had come to the US for a teaching internship at St. Gregory, a Catholic elementary school in suburban Boston. The school had a dormitory building for students who lived far away, a 3-story structure surrounded by tall, whispering trees. During his first week, Patrick heard students whisper about a boy who wandered the dorm hallways after 10 p.m. No one knew who he was. He would appear and disappear suddenly. Some kids swore they saw him jump from the second-floor balcony without getting hurt. One night, while doing a routine check to make sure students had gone to bed, Patrick noticed the storage room door slightly ajar. Inside, he heard whispers. As he approached, he saw a boy, around 10 years old, with his back turned, muttering to the wall, as if speaking to someone invisible. Patrick gently called, "Hey there, it's late. You should go back to your room." The boy slowly turned, revealing a pale grin and solid black eyes. No whites. A chill ran down Patrick's spine. The boy giggled and darted past him. Patrick gave chase, but the child had vanished. Patrick reported the incident to the principal, but she brushed it off, warning him not to be too superstitious. Dissatisfied, Patrick dug through old records and found a clue. In 1985, a boy named Michael had been a boarding student at St. Gregory. He came from a tragic background. Both parents had died. One stormy night, Michael mysteriously vanished. No trace was ever found, and the case was forgotten. Patrick began to suspect that the boy he saw was Michael's spirit. He seemed to possess strange abilities, teleportation, interference with electronics. One morning, Patrick walked into his locked office and found PLY written in white chalk on the blackboard. Even though no one had entered the room, things escalated when a young student burst into the office, crying, Michael told Nick and me to go up to the attic, he sobbed. When I bent down to tie my shoelaces, Nick disappeared. Knowing the attic was old and always locked, Patrick grabbed a flashlight and rushed up to his shop. The attic door stood wide open. Inside, cobwebs blanketed the space. Moonlight streamed faintly through a cracked window. In the center, the boy in the wool hat stood giggling, back turned. Patrick shouted, "You're Michael, aren't you?" The boy shook his head. "I'm not Michael. I'm just borrowing his body." He pulled off his hat, revealing a bald, scarred scalp. As he turned, Patrick saw half his face. Pale, stitched up with a long scar that stretched to his ear. A wave of terror swept over him. Suddenly, an invisible hand grabbed Patrick's wrist. He dropped the flashlight, which shattered, plunging the attic into darkness. Patrick stumbled toward the door, only to find it locked. He pounded and shouted, but no one heard. Behind him, the child's voice echoed, "The game is just beginning." In desperation, Patrick kicked the wooden door with all his might, trying to make a gap large enough to escape. Pain shot through his ankle like a crack of lightning, but finally, he saw light. Despite his injury, he dragged himself out. Just then, a cold gust swept past him, followed by the shrill scream of a child. But Patrick didn't look back. He kept moving. After the incident, the school administration dismissed his account, blaming it on stress-induced hallucination. Unable to convince anyone, Patrick resigned and left St. Gregory. It seemed the school didn't want to acknowledge Michael's disappearance, perhaps to cover up something darker. That boy in the wool hat may have been Michael's restless soul, still roaming the halls, seeking justice for a truth long buried. Tonight's 3 stories remind us that schools, places meant for joy and learning, can still harbor shadows that defy explanation. Through this video, I hope you've felt a glimpse of the eerie atmosphere lingering in empty hallways, deserted rooms, and late-night classrooms, where the line between reality and the supernatural grows disturbingly thin. If you enjoy real-life horror content and want to hear more chilling tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And feel free to share your own spooky experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Wishing you a peaceful night's sleep.